Hello and welcome to another Boroshin's Retrospectives, this time covering Tekken 3, released in 1997 in arcades and 1998 on the Sony PlayStation. Tekken 3 is one of the most important games to the Tekken franchise, but also to the Sony PlayStation, being the fourth best-selling game on the entire system. Mental when you think it's a fighting game, which aren't known for being great sellers, but this game really sold you on the amount of content it had. This game cemented a lot of the mechanics that are now completely staple to the core of Tekken's gameplay, and the game's music and presentation has a feel all of its own. The game takes place, storyline-wise, 20 years after Tekken 2, so many characters are missing, including the game's protagonist, Kazuya. And the game instead has a lot of new characters. These characters are now fan favourites, such as Jin Kazama, who's the new protagonist, Ling Xiaoyu, who I personally despise because she's so goddamn annoying, Horang, the student of Beck Dosan, and Eddie Gordo, who was, and kind of still is, the button masher's wet dream. The game also has a ton of unlockable characters, some who are returning like Anna Williams and Kuma, as well as new faces like Brian Fury, Julia Chang, and the boss of the game, Ogre. I'm going to talk about the gameplay first, as it, from a fighting game player's perspective, is really what makes this game stand out against other PS1 games. Or the PS1 Tekken games, I should say. This is the first game where sidestepping is a universal mechanic, which may seem shocking if you aren't familiar with Tekken 1 or 2. I know for a fact when I played those games a long while back, I kind of forgot that they didn't have sidesteps after playing more modern Tekken games. This did come as a shock to me. Characters like Heihachi had a move that essentially sidesteps in Tekken 2, but they were very few and far between. The early Tekken games do feel very 2D, despite their 3D nature. But here in Tekken 3, we get the full 3D fighting game experience. Movement is fast and responsive, making it still feel good even to this day, not clunky at all. Which, to be fair, makes it not a surprise that to many this is the best Tekken game ever made. Not my personal favourite, but it's in my top 3. The addition of sidestepping increases the depth of the game dramatically, allowing entire new strategies, particularly on defense, in regards to how to deal with certain different attacks. So, Paul's Death Fist comes to mind because it's an incredibly linear move, so you can sidestep it. This wasn't possible in Tekken 1 or Tekken 2. This game also introduced the standard Mishima Wave Dash, which is now staple for a lot of characters in modern Tekken games. It's weird how, if you play like Tekken 1 or Tekken 2 and do an Electric Wind God Fist, there isn't a Wave Dash to it. You kind of just move forward. You don't like sort of do the duck that you do in modern Tekken games. Due to the addition of the sidestep, they made characters' jump height far more realistic compared to the moon jumps of previous Tekken games, resulting in jumping being far less evasive. If you jump in, say, Tekken 2, you can avoid highs, which seems mental now, but now they literally can only really sort of be a low crush. Overall, the gameplay is incredibly solid and sets the groundwork for the future Tekken games to come. it's a joy to play, and I played through arcade mode about 8 times just because of how much fun I was having with the game, despite dropping most of my juggles. Seriously, the game isn't as easy as it looks. I watch combo videos and things like that, and I'm like, oh, I can do that. Not quite as easy as you'd think it would be. Onto the presentation. This game has an incredible sense of style and also a grittiness to it. Not only is it very visually impressive for a PS1 game, despite having to downgrade the graphics from the arcade version, its music is very hard-hitting and really gives you a sense of the character you're fighting. Seriously, I love this game's soundtrack. I'm going to allow you to have a proper listen to not only the soundtrack, but also the hard-hitting sound effects, which provide the necessary oomph that a fighting game like Tekken needs.
Final round, fight!
All of the music in Tekken 3 is an absolute treat. I've got so many favourites. Forest Law's theme is just great. King's theme, as you would have heard a little bit of it while I've been talking, is one of my favourites. And actually, Lei Wulong's theme is another treat, despite probably putting his Tekken 2 theme, just because of its kind of cheesiness nature, a little bit higher. But absolutely stunning soundtrack, and still a good listen today. It's on Spotify. You can actually listen to all the Tekken soundtracks on Spotify, and I do that quite regularly. It's important to note that this is the arranged soundtrack, which I personally prefer, and was default on the console version. However, you can pick the original arcade soundtrack from the options. This game, from a casual perspective, is also rammed with content. It includes tons of modes: arcade, versus, survival, team battle, the now legendary Tekken Force mode, which I probably should have captured some of that because it is quite interesting, which is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, which provides a nice change of pace from the regular matches. You can unlock Tekken Ball mode, where you play essentially beach volleyball, apart from the ball becomes a weapon when hit with powerful attacks. This mode is still a fan favourite to this day. I remember when I was playing it upstairs in my Nan and Grandad's house, I'd have a mate over, we would be playing probably more Tekken Ball than we would the regular game, because it was genuinely fun just to see how you could kind of outplay your opponent with it, because you were kind of restricted on how you could move. You couldn't move past the midpoint of the screen, being essentially sort of the dividing line of the volleyball court. But it was really interesting seeing how different attacks affected the physics of the ball. It was such a great mode. I really wish it kind of was the mode they brought back in Tekken 7, because they brought back Tekken Ball. Not Tekken Ball, Tekken Bowl, which is from Tekken Tag Tournament, which is essentially just bowling. I'd much prefer Tekken Ball. Overall, I love Tekken 3. It's within my top 3 Tekken games for a reason. It's so incredibly important in regards to what Tekken would become. It's got great characters, awesome music, fantastic gameplay, and loaded with content. I usually say, please go play the game I cover, but I imagine the vast majority of you have played Tekken 3. So instead, boot it up again, hit some death fists, and beat arcade mode or something, because it's still so much fun. I know modern Tekken games have a lot to offer, like Tekken 7. I love Tekken 7, but there's something in the simplicity. While it has a lot of depth, and you'll still see people, there are still tournaments for Tekken 3. I saw there was an Indian tournament for Tekken 3, which was really interesting to see, because they were really good at it. But the fact that the game is simple, there isn't like crazy combo mechanics. There's juggles, but there's no, like, for instance, in Tekken, what is it nowadays? Tekken, you have walls, you have screws, you have all sorts of things, rage arts, rage drives. The fact that this game doesn't have any of that, but still it has that damage, it has the feel of Tekken. It feels like Tekken. It is what Tekken becomes. That there's something so special about Tekken 3, and really people should go play it again. It's a stellar experience. I'm gonna leave you with just some gameplay and more of the music. I thank you for watching Boroshin's Retrospectives. I'm probably going to cover The Last Blade 2 next, I think, another SNK fighter. And then I don't know what I might cover. Maybe Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, just because that is a request that's been long. Obviously, great fighting game, Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. But yeah, that's probably what I'll cover. I thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Happy 2020, as it is a new year, the first of the new year Boroshin's Retrospectives, and I'll see you next time.